as usually goes with these matters, everything that was wrong with it is only getting worse. And if it was a bad idea at that point, and it's been a bad idea since, it is now a much, much worse idea. Because you cannot be sending your troops to a country where even the prime minister is unable to set foot back in the country. Even the US itself, that is urging us on, has withdrawn its citizens from Haiti. So you are basically taking 1,000 Kenyans to a slaughterhouse, and that's really unfortunate. As I understand...
Right, let me hear from Okongo Mogini. Even as we have this situation and really unfolding, we have that bilateral agreement was signed between Haiti and Kenya, where we saw Prime Minister Henry here in the country. But people are questioning now, since we don't have a legitimate government, does it really hold water, right? Where is the veracity of that or the authenticity of a bilateral agreement? Good morning, good to see you.
Yes, it's morning, Deval. I think as Kenyans we should by now understand who President Ruto is. I think what defines Ruto's presidency is a fight to always have his way. And he seems to be in the seat of presidency with the mindset of the pre-2010 constitution. Maybe because he opposed the 2010 constitution, he's not come to terms that the constitution is in place and he should govern using the 2010 constitution. Because in many democracies where you have a limited government like what we have, because limited government simply tells you that you govern within some concepts, some tenets that are in our constitution, where there is rule of law, where decisions that you make can be challenged in a court of law, and you accept that if a court of law makes a decision, you are bound by it. It also makes you to come to realization that some of your decisions may require parliamentary approval. Some of your decisions may be limited, guided by what is in the constitution. But increasingly I'm seeing a president who is totally unable to come to terms with that very simple constitutional theory, where he wants his word to be law and his word to be effected, whether it is got disapproval from Kenyans or not. And I think that puts us in a very dangerous trajectory, because like Mheshimiwa Tenda Amolo said, in an ideal situation, if you ask me, in an ideal situation, our officers going to Haiti should do so voluntarily. You should not force people to go to a jurisdiction, a foreign jurisdiction, against their wish. More so, and I stand to be corrected, more so when what I'm seeing from other jurisdictions is totally different. Other jurisdictions are sending people from the army, while us in Kenya, we are sending police officers who are really not trained to go and fight and kill. They are there to maintain law and order, not like the army that go to secure places, kill the enemies and all the likes. So if there was any appeal we can make as Kenyans, is to request the president to reduce the war he has between himself as a president and the people of Kenya, where every proposal that he puts on the table, he doesn't want to open it to open it up for discussion and make a decision that is broadly acceptable with Kenyans. I have no doubt, if this was a problem, maybe in a country that is stable, like South Africa, for example, I doubt whether any Kenyan would have really raised an hand to kind of protest the decision of the president. But the fact that we are sending our daughters, our sons, our brothers and sisters to a jurisdiction where you can see, I mean, with the technology, everybody can see what's happening in Haiti. You know that you are sending to our fellow brothers and sisters to a death trap where you may end up receiving corpses back. That, I think, is not prudent leadership. Yeah.
All right, I still asked a question regarding the veracity of the documents that were signed, since we don't have, as it is, a legitimate government. We have also the gang leader asking for resignation of the prime minister and other gang leaders as well.
I think that even complicates it. But I think the way I look at it, you can still look at that that decision of the president of inviting the prime minister from Haiti to come and sign that agreement as a way of trying to circumvent the court decisions, circumvent the objections that have been raised by many Kenyans. But yes, indeed, I agree with you that if there is an issue of legitimacy with a foreign government, then it's against international law for you as a president to try to legitimize a government that is already perceived to be illegitimate. But whether we can call the government in place in Haiti illegitimate or legitimate,
that's another question.
Another question.
Otina Molo, when you look at the U.S. Secretary of State calling on President William Ruto on phone there and asking that we should be expediting this particular process while they're evacuating the staff from the embassies, their citizens as well, what will you say?
But let me deal with the legitimacy question first.
Okay.
Last week, on this very show, I endeavored to demonstrate why, in my opinion, even that reciprocation agreement that was signed is not legitimate, is not lawful, and does not respond to the issues that had been raised. Why? First, in my opinion, and I think I demonstrated under the Treaty Making Act, Section 3 and Section 8, that the foundation to this kind of arrangement must be a bilateral treaty between the two countries. That is what our laws expect. And when you sign that treaty, first, it's an idea that must be launched in cabinet, and the cabinet must then approve it, and once the cabinet approves it, then it's brought to parliament for endorsement, the treaty. Once then you have a treaty in place, then now you come to the secondary level of, is there a reciprocation agreement? Is there an agreement that now defines the kind of engagement that you are supposed to have? And the primary question is there a law, an arrangement in that reciprocating country by which, if we were in a similar situation, they would deploy their forces to Kenya? So far, there is no such law. There cannot be, because you're in a situation where Haiti does not have a government. It does not have a judiciary. It does not have a legislature that can undertake such an action. Beyond that, Prime Minister Uriel actually has fundamental issues, because even his tenure had already ended. So he's just had to extend, I think, his tenure out of what they would call necessity. And that is why some of those organized groups are very keen in telling him not to even come back. But so even his capacity, his authority to put a signature that is binding Haiti as a country is highly in doubt. But what's more is that at the end of the day, even that very arrangement has not been shared with Kenyans. All we know, all we see is the US praising any such arrangement and asking that it be expedited. It does appear to us that even that whole arrangement is based on the goodwill of President Biden and encouraging our president to send our troops. If there was to be any change of guard, even in the US itself, then it is foreseeable that they will simply throw us under the bus. We do not know what financial arrangements are being thrown in our face to encourage us to send our policemen to Haiti in such arrangements by a country that does not have the courage to send its own citizens, and in fact is evacuating its citizens from that country. So the whole arrangement is unfortunate. It's as if someone is telling us that the value of a Kenyan life is less than the value of a life of other citizens of other countries. And I think it's quite unfortunate.
Indeed. Of course, quite unfortunate. We shall be looking at the latest development on that as well. I wanted just also to ask the question, especially on, before we gravitate deeper to our discussion, Okongo Mogini, Because I can see your county has been listed as one of the counties that has never, we don't have any registry or register of assets of Nyamira County, amongst many other counties as well. And so that is sort of a loophole that is there where billions of shillings are being lost through this unaccounted for assets since the promulgation of the Constitution. You as the Senator of Nyamira, is there a way that maybe this has been an oversight from the senators that since we don't have any registry of the assets for most of the counties?
I wish you also had a session where you ask our county governors to appear here and answer some of these questions. Because, you know, governors are our county executives at the county level. And if you come through the reports that senators prepared over the years, these are questions that we have asked over and over again, including the issue of own sales revenue for counties. There is a lot of spillage. You know, if there is an area where money and resources are being lost, it's at county level. Not even that issue of register, because assets you can easily track. You know, like land is not being dished away the way it used to be dished away before the 2010 Constitution. So that's an easier problem that we can deal with. But the issues of management continue to be a big challenge on governance at the county level, including, you know, if you pick cases like Nyamira, which you have flagged out, year in, year out, we never hit our revenue targets. You'll see that successful years, you will have sittings with the county governor of Nyamira. He will appear, he will make promises that we are going to digitize our revenue collection. He will tell you we are in the process of finalizing documentation around our assets. They will even cite what you see in Keroka, the dispute between neighboring counties, Kisii and Keroka, as one of the issues that is delaying their compilation of all the lists they have before they close it up. So generally, our counties have not sorted out issues of governance, issues of corruption. And EACC has not really stepped in to help, because I thought because they have a mandate under the law to go and assess systems of any government office, they would have really pushed the governors to ensure that, one, corruption, which is the biggest challenge facing counties, is dealt with, and governors become more responsive to the people that they serve. So in a nutshell, the report you are seeing portrays the picture on the ground. And it's unfortunate that we are now into the third cycle of governors who have taken office. Many counties have not taken off. Others have done very well. Like what I'm seeing in Homa Bay should be a study case on how governors should manage resources for the benefit of the people who have elected them. I'm here to get the official records, but I'm told that Gladys Wanga assumed the reins of power with a revenue collection that was around 300 million. What I've seen in the papers is that she has now hit 700 million, and she has a target of hitting 1 billion annual collection. The same thing with what is happening in Murang'a. In terms in asset, Murang'a County should be a case study. Governor, former Senator Irungu Kang'ata, as a tool that can, you know, on the touch of a button, you can tell where a vehicle that belongs to Murang'a County is as we speak now. If it's on an official tour to an hospital within the county of Murang'a, you'll know where it is, and you'll even know the driver who is having that vehicle. But that is just one case. If you go to my county now, unfortunately, I should be very proud of my account, but if you go to my account of Nyamira and you ask where vehicle X is, you will not be told. So this idea of saying governors are independent governments, you find that the success of a county will depend on the ability of a governor to properly manage the resources, be innovative, and create a team that can have a dream of really turning around the economic situation of a country. If you get the wrong governor, you will stall. If you get the right governor, you will take off.
But it's still a question of assets registry is very key, even as you mentioned Murang'a County, because we've had cases where we have so many vehicles and also so many drivers. And when you call them to, align themselves with the vehicles that they should be driving, you find you have so many ghost workers.
The best case,
so the asset registry, because this is being flagged by the controller of budgets. When you say, oh, that is not, it's sort of a known issue, so to speak, it's critical, because I think it's assets are not just the lands and the buildings that we've seen. There are so many elements that really goes even to the computer and the laptops within.
It's proper you diagnose the problem. Issues of drivers is a case where governors want to turn counties into an employment bureau. You know that you have 100 vehicles, like what happened in Kisii, but you find that a governor can choose. That's again going by the reports that we saw. A governor can choose to employ 300 drivers simply because you want to reward maybe your supporters or relatives. So it's not even an issue of assets. It goes back to what I just stated earlier, that we have issues of governance and issues of management that remains a very big challenge within our counties. Remember, the issue of asset started with the transition authority that prepared an asset that it handed over to government, to the county government. So basically on book, if you go to the books, the issues of vehicles should not be a problem. But because we as politicians, when you are a governor, you want to reward your supporters, you will employ more than you need. If you read Kisii now, in terms of flouting the PFM Act, it's spending 62% of its allocation on PE, personal emoluments, over and above the required 35%. So what is the challenge? Is the issue of challenge and issue of management. It's not an issue of assets.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me open Tabitha Mutinda. Good morning, good to see you.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, we're just continuing with the conversation. We are still on counties and how they're faring, especially on on-cess revenue collection, asset registry. This has been flagged by the controller of budgets as well. This is an issue since the promulgation of a constitution that has not been streamlined, and we are losing billions and billions of shillings through pilferage, because then how do we account if we don't have a register in the first place?
Dibal, actually, the committee that I serve, that is the Finance and Budget Committee, where I do sit as the Vice Chair, the issue of the on-source revenue is an issue that we've dug deeper. And as we speak, we have a committee at the National Treasury that is working on a central integrated system for all the 47 counties, that also KRA will be coming aboard to be able to maximize this collection. I was just looking at the data that is on your screen, and a good example is the county that I represent, Nairobi. 3.6 billion against a 19.42 billion. And you realize a county like Nairobi does not even need to wait for the allocation of the national government, the equitable share that is allocated, because our allocation is 19 billion. Yet the target for on-source revenue, if it's keenly focused on, we are able to achieve that. But in the moment, it's not doable. What is the challenge? Challenge is what I've had my senior colleague talk about, the issues of corruption, the issue of, scrupulous cartels that are in these offices. Money is collected, money is not accounted for. Why is money collected cash? I've seen, yes, my governor has tried to put a digital system. But it's a new system, yes, as we are waiting to see its results in terms of what has previously been collected to what is currently being collected with the digital system that he has put in place. But you realize the issue is the cartels that have been there year in, year out. The issue of incompetence. I serve in another committee called CPIC. It's similar to PAC on oversight. And as earlier as yesterday, we are looking at issues of accounting standards, whereby governors, as my colleague has said, it is employment through rewards, political rewardees. But this personnel has no skills, experience, or even if you're in an office, but you do not have, you're not a qualified accountant, but you are the accounting officer. So your juniors should be able to also have some of these competencies that are required. But you realize that the people seated in these offices who assist the governors do not have the rightful skills. You have even people like county attorneys who cannot give legal advice to some of the concerns that we raise, because you find that as early as yesterday we were oversighting the county of Lamu, and a CEC of education coerces a junior to sign for bursaries without authenticating the beneficiaries. And the concerns are raised. And the CEC forces and says these payments need to be done. Where also situations whereby checks are issued without the mandatory signatories. They go to the bank. Of course, the check cannot be cleared. Cash books cannot be balanced. Those are the challenges that also are happening. But also the blame is to the governors who are focusing on putting people in terms of the clan issues, tribal issues, political reward. Is not focusing on the key issues of leadership, governance, and good management. It goes now back to the issue we've been saying that governors require degrees. Then we wonder, are these just papers just to place on table for political process? Are they really in use? Because sometimes you look at how some of the questions that we put across to the governors, they are not even able to respond some of them. They have to give it to their juniors. Okay, it's within their mandate, but they are the CEOs. But they do not understand how the transactions took place. Simple calculation, mathematics, financial statements are not balancing completely. The issue of the assets, Dibal. We've done a lot of oversight on the water companies, and it is sad to say that the national government has held so much on some of these assets. IGRTC, which is mandated to be the Kofi Annan between the national and the counties to be able to transfer these assets. It's been a challenge for the longest. The national government is holding these assets, and they go to an extent of even acquiring loans on behalf of the counties and expect the counties to pay. They were not involved during the process of this loan. They are required to pay. They were not involved in the process of the projects that took place. They don't know the cost. They don't know the revenue that's supposed to be collected. Will it sustain the loan that's in place? All these challenges. The cost of running the counties, Dibal, from where I sit in my committee, you realize the cost has gone high. As we speak...
Before we go to the cost of running the counties, even if they've gone high, still we have money that is coming from the exchequer, and they are being stashed away and salted away in commercial banks in violation of what the Constitution is saying. And this has been going for the longest time since we had the promulgation of this Constitution. You as the senators, I think you failed Kenyans in that regard to make sure that this is implemented, because all this is, at the end of the day, to accrue interest for the benefits of the governors, because they have billions. There's no way you can talk about a county holding 35 accounts with the commercial banks in the country, and they know this, they have to bank with the Central Bank of Kenya. So has this been also an issue that has been raised within, the chambers to address that particular issue? Because all these monies that are salted away in these commercial banks, most of them, they go back to Treasury unaccounted for, right? And we're talking about the glacial slowness of development within counties, and money is being dispersed from the exchequer. All the other time, you can see them holding press conferences on how the Treasury has not disbursed, money has not hit their accounts up to now. But when they hit their accounts, they go straight away to commercial banks where they stay for even one good year. And then they go back to the National Treasury.
Because Bribal realized there are processes, because there are budgets that have to be approved by the...
No, let's just begin from the point of banking with commercial bank. Is that a process that also which is verified? No, it is not.
Okay, yes, it's a valid concern, but we look at it in two ways, because our mandate is also to support the counties. Yes, to support, but also to address the thorny issues that we've been able to point out or been able to flag off. You realize the budgets have to be passed by the county assemblies, and the timelines do matter. So sometimes during this, out of these delays that take place, some of these funds are not utilized on time. The issue of delays from the ex-checker from Treasury is another thorn issue. And I was bringing the point of the recurrent expenditure is higher, and it's being brought also about by what Senator Mugeni talked about in terms of too much employment. It's like it's a county's an employment HR system. It's a bureau, exactly, and like, what it's supposed to do. The other day I saw a report in regards to the counties that have done 0-point-something development. That is, they're focusing much more on the recurring expenditure. As much as, yes, I want to agree that inflation cost has gone high. Interest costs with banks have also gone high. CHV cost right now is also being shared by the county government. We have salary annual increments for the employees it is annual in the system, which also increases the cost. So you realize that the equitable share that they are receiving, it's a bit constraining.
Thank you.
But the focus should be on the all-source revenue. But still, we have another animal that we'll be dealing with soon. That is the pending bills issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Okongo Mogeni or Tenda Molo, you want to comment on that issues of the counties as well, if you may?
You're trying to say about that counties should not run accounts in commercial banks?
No. Why would a county actually be having 35 accounts?
Last week I had...
I'm just teasing out what has been...
I had somebody commending Honorable Tenda Molo on an issue he raised on disbursement of money by Treasury, where I think he indicated that they have 4 months to the close of the financial year, and there's a big chunk of CDF money that has not been released. That's the same problems counties face, not just counties, even these members of parliament you see here. Even a kit like office operations for members of parliament has not been released by Treasury from January, February, March. We are now 2 weeks to the end of this quarter, and that kitty has not been released. And you expect members of parliament who have employed staff at their constituency level to have left the salaries of their staff unpaid from January, February, and now this is March. And these members of staff are Kenyans like us. They have bills to meet, they have children to take to school, etc. When you go to counties, you'll find that in a certain quarter, maybe you begin a financial year in June, and the government will not release money to counties till maybe September. So you have no money in July, you have no money in August, you're in September. So what counties have resorted to is to have a relationship with commercial banks. Like my county of Nyamira, they didn't have money in January, they didn't have money in February. So you go back to your bank, your local bank manager to support your operations as you wait money to be disbursed from the national government. So this conversation cannot be concluded in a fair manner unless you involve the Treasury and how they release money to entities, various entities, not just counties, but other government entities like judiciary and parliament, okay? Unless that is done on a timely basis, you'll always have these problems of lack of resources the user entities, which is counties and other officers. Now, other laws that we are passing as members of parliament is going to, the report will even get worse, because the 3 new health laws that were enacted have now opened the window for county governments to allow hospitals to operate independent accounts. And I think those accounts will be opened in the name of the county governments, but allow the management committees of those health facilities to manage them. So the auditor will be seeing even more accounts opened in our commercial banks in the name of county governments.
All right.
Yeah.
You know, let me comment on this, right? Basically, from where you started, the question of the register of assets. I see this at 4 levels. First is just liturgy. They're just being lethargic. We are now 14 years since the new constitution came into place. And we first had the transition authority, which I think lasted a number of years. And one of the areas of focus was the register of assets for the counties. When the transition authority finished its mandate and left the Intergovernmental Relations Committee to continue, it has continued for almost a decade. There is no reason why any county should still be reminded on the need to have a clear asset register, because it's a requirement of the law. It's not just a matter to be raised by the Auditor General or Senate. Secondly, part of the problem is sometimes refusal to engage robustly on issues that need engagement. And one of the areas, for example, that you'll be hearing next year will be on this whole question of affordable housing. I have repeatedly raised the issue that before you start talking of affordable housing and all that, you must settle the question of whose asset will it be when national government takes national government money to construct houses on county government land. Does it become an asset of the county, or does it become an asset of national government? But once it is sold to a private individual like me, is it now my asset? Because that has not been resolved, and by the way, I don't know at what stage that bill now is in the Senate, that issue will remain an outstanding issue at all times, because you do not know whether to classify it in the register of assets of national government or of the county. Thirdly, I see another problem. You know, part of the problem with the Senate, and my 2 colleagues are here, is that half the senators want to be governors.
So they want to keep
some of them. And in most counties, the relationship between the senators and the governors are actually very poor for that reason. Because this is somebody who wants your seat. So chances are, even if they're raising something legitimate, you think it's just because they want you out of that seat. But lastly, in the Senate itself also, is the question of party positions and party interference. You know, Senate as an institution is meant to protect devolution generally and counties specifically. But many times, when an issue comes to the Senate, then before it's even debated, the political partisan positions will have been taken, and in many instances, instructions given on how to go this way or that way. I am sure by now, now that the senators are going to be discussing the question of removal of the deputy governor of Kisii, I am quite sure party positions and instructions have been given so that as an entity, they are not able to soberly discuss and agree on things that are important for devolution. So most times, you know, the party positions, and I'm not just accusing the Kenya Kwanza side, I am just talking generally. Party positions take center stage. So for me, I see those 4 as a big problem. But having said that, what Senator Okongo-Morgan is saying is true. Many counties survive by negotiation with, you know, local banks. I think almost all counties have to survive that way, because if you don't, there's no way you can start explaining to the employees that you will not get your salary because we've not received money from from Treasury. So
and is that against the constitution that they should bank in the central bank, or
no?
Because we have that being flagged as some of the violations.
I know of no law that prevents any county from banking with any approved bank, once you receive the money, because that is also the only way, you can have some avenue of maneuver when you don't get money from Treasury, and it's a big problem in terms of delayed funds.
Even
Fantastic.
Revenue, where do you want them to bank?
Yeah, in the commercial
They must
banks.
have commercial banks.
I'm just raising what was being conveyed, so you are the people to make it very limpid and clear for us.
On a light touch, what's wrong with Senator Mutinda becoming governor of Tanzania? Senators have a right to be ambitious. As to debate, as to debate on the housing bill.
Yes, but before we take a short break, we just let us just keep briefly the voice of Owen Bayer. Good morning, good to see you, so that we can circle back with you on the other side of the break.
Yes. Now, on counties, I want to say this.
No, just say good morning so that we take a short break.
Good morning, the bad
morning.
and the team. It's a pleasure to be here after the weekend. It's a pleasure to be here.
We take a short break right now. When we circle back, of course, we shall hear from Owen Bayer. The bicameral House bill also is being debated right now, just to and streamline that acrimonious, should I say, relationship that has been there between the national government, the National Assembly, and also the Senate as well. Also, the critical question of IBC still lingers. Are we on a constitutional meltdown, as it is, a crisis, so to speak, without the commissioners of IBC? We shall be looking at that as well on the other side of a break.